Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing awgolike in the 15-minute pool on ICC. He opens with e4. Let's play e5. Double king pawn. I'm going to check out my opponent's stats. So they have a peak 15-minute rating of 1876. Almost 800 games played. All right, so we got the Scotch game. And Scotch Gambit, bishop c4. Okay, so an aggressive line. Instead of knight takes d4, scooping back the pawn, white elects to postpone the capture on d4 and may just give up a pawn altogether. Yeah, this is some dangerous stuff. So black usually plays either bishop c5 or knight f6 here. I know bishop c5 a little bit better, so I think I'm going to do that. I must confess, though, it's been ages since I played this stuff. Okay, castles would have been the main line, but white just plays c3, and here I can play knight f6 and transpose back into a Giuoco Piano. So now c takes d4, bishop b4 check is the line. Unless white wants to continue in gambit fashion. Okay, e5. Now in response to e5, d5 is often very good. So that's what I will play here. This is also a line, and one in which I have not played for a very long time. It's going to look a little weird. Like you're allowing e takes f6, d takes c4, f takes g7. But then rook g8 will be fine for black, and I'll have the two bishops and good central presence. So let's see how white responds. A lot of players just play bishop b5 right here. And then black will move the knight, and then they take on d4. And it looks like that is what awgolike is going to do. Yeah, so let's play knight e4. And after c takes, I think bishop b6 is the way to go. I could also check on b4, but that may just assist his development. Knight bd2, so I think I'll play bishop b6 and keep that bishop pointed at the pawn on d4. Hope everyone is doing well. By the time you're watching this, I'll be in London for the London Classic. Actually, I'll probably have been there for several days now. I'm playing the FIDE Open section. And also I'm going to watch the big boys play in the Super Tournament, the last leg of the Grand Chess Tour. So knight c3, this attacks the knight here, but I can just ignore it for now because let's say I castle, knight takes e4, I take with the d-pawn, and this knight would have to move, and I'm going to crash through on d4. So let's just go ahead and castle. I'll pre-move this capture just in case. I doubt white will take because I think they'll see that the pressure on d4 is palpable, but you never know. You might as well pre-move. If white castles, I'll probably play bishop g4 and pin them. That looks like a good way to pressure the center. That pressures d4, because if that knight goes, so might the d4 pawn. It's the only minor piece defending there. Okay, so he takes. I think just take back. Now bishop a6 becomes a possibility. Queen e2. Okay, so he's trying to stop bishop a6 maybe? Or maybe just get me to do something with the knight. That's probably the more likely scenario or explanation. So now I can take on c3. Knight takes c3, b takes c3, and then play a5. And that looks hard to meet because castles just runs into bishop a6. And we skewer the queen to the rook. Looks tough for white to deal with that. They're probably going to have to get out of the way of the light square diagonal. So I think I'm going to play that way. Just pausing for a moment to think if there's any other moves like bishop f5 or bishop g4 or maybe f5, reinforcing the knight, but nothing looks as good as taking. Yeah, so let's do that. Take and then a5. If c4 trying to block the diagonal, I can just play bishop a6 all the same and set up a pin. So this is looking good. In these structures, there's always a slight fear that your bishop on b6 will be out of play. But so long as black retains the option of playing c5, I don't think that will be an issue. Bishop g5 attacks my queen with tempo. but queen d7, and I'm still ready to play bishop a6 all the same. I could also play pawn f6, but if pawn f6, e takes f, g takes f, bishop e3, bishop a6, it's a nice position, but I don't think I have to weaken my king. I think that's unnecessary. So let's just do queen d7. I mean, if I were white, I'd be considering castling long, even though here it looks pretty dangerous to do so. There's this open b file, but castling short would require pitching in exchange, so white may not have that many good alternatives. So if he castles long, bishop a6, I'll play again, probably. And then let's say queen c2, maybe rook a b8, just to ensure that if king b1 is played trying to escape to the corner, I can always play bishop takes d4 check. Yeah, so that might trap his king in on c1, should he seek refuge there. Tough spot for white. Not sure what I would do. I may still go for f6, by the way. I might just look for a better time to do it. Like after bishop, let's say white doesn't castle at all and just leaves their king in the center. After I play bishop a6, I'll be looking for pawn breaks to further open the position and try to get at white's king in the middle. Because their coordination will be bad because they can't connect their rooks. So I'll be looking at moves like c5, trying to attack d4, get this bishop into play, and also f6. Clear the e file. Knock out that pawn on e5. He's doing the right thing. He's slowing down. I just fear for his sake that he doesn't have much, and I think the damage has already been done. These are always tough calls, like whether to give up material in hopes of just achieving some position you can play, or like it looks like what he's going to do, allow me to carry out my main idea, but keep even material. I think he dropped the bishop back because he wants to stop me from playing c5. Now he's just going to clear out with his queen and try to hold out, but it's going to be an uphill battle. This is reasonable, though. I mean, stopping c5 makes a lot of sense, so I think he came up with something good there. Maybe a4. I like the look of pawn a4. Ooh, what about queen g4 as well? Queen g4 hits the pawn on g2. That also harasses his knight. So I have a real strong presence on the light squares now, because I have an unopposed light square bishop peering into his position. So yeah, queen g4 could be a good move to flick in right here. And who knows, maybe in the future I'll put my queen on e4. I think I'm going to play this move. Yeah, attack g2. He'll play rook g1, I think. There's no other way to defend that pawn. He might castle long, but I don't get the impression he's excited to play that move. Yeah, so rook g1. So at least now I know that the king is never going short. He's never going to play castle short. Now I'm thinking a4 could be the way to go. a4 and maybe reposition the bishop to a5. Since he's shut down my idea with c5, I can try to do that. I could also play queen e4 and try to play c5, pinning this bishop, but I don't like that as much. I think I prefer this plan with a4, so let's do that. And if he castles long, I'll still play that rook a b8 move to restrict his king, and then look to continue with bishop a5. Okay, h3. Now queen e4. Queen e4, let's say rook c1, bishop a5, queen c2, bishop d3. That's rough for him. Hard to move. Could also just play queen g6, or maybe even move my queen all the way back to d7, but queen e4 looks active, so that's why it caught my eye. Yeah, let's go queen e4. Pin the bishop. I predict he'll play either knight g5 or maybe rook c1, trying to go queen c2. I don't think he can really tolerate this queen here, is the point, so he's got to find some way to kick it out, like knight g5 would fit the bill. But knight g5 will just play queen g6. One plan I have after playing bishop a5 is to play pawn a3, rook b8, and then rook into b2. Invade on the second rank. Looks tough to stop. My queen also controls b1, so he can't put his rook there. Yeah, I think I would play rook c1 right now. Knight g5 maybe, but I just don't see knight g5, queen g6 leading anywhere positive for white. I can always kick his knight away with h6 or maybe even f6. So at least rook c1 has in mind the idea of queen to c2. It still doesn't interfere with the whole bishop a5, rook b8, a3, rook b2 plan, though. So it's hard for white to disrupt that. Yeah, I'm struggling to find anything else for him. King d1 could be tried. Bailing out with the king. Maybe trying to play rook e1, but still, same plan applies. King d1, bishop a5, rook e1. If I wanted to be really safe, I could move my queen then, but let's say just rook a b8. And any discovery with the bishop, I can just drop my queen back to g6. And everything's shipshape. There's also rook b1 check, if I can get that in too. Not much else to say about this position. I think my play has been pretty natural so far. Once you hit upon that plan of bringing the bishop to a6 and occupying the light squares, I think it becomes apparent that white's whole strategy, starting with bishop takes c6, is pretty faulty. So rook d1, centralizing, but that doesn't help white do anything, because what is their next move? And it looks like just bishop a5 is going to be making inroads. Bishop a5, queen b2 maybe? Rook b8, queen a3. Surely that must be bad somehow, though. Queen to c2. Yeah, that will take care of business. Okay, so let's put this bishop where it belongs, attacking the pawn on c3. Maybe he thinks I was planning c5, because rook d1 does address c5 in that if I had played that move, he could play d takes c5, bishop takes c5, queen takes d5. So that might have been the purpose of that. I think he was trying to prevent that idea. All right, where are you going with that knight? Knight h2? Don't see where he's off to with that one. Maybe he's just trying to play f3 and king f2. That's probably it. In positions like this, I think it's really important to just understand what your opponent's trying to do, because I have him so under my thumb and so heavily under wrap that he's just going to be thrashing around trying to get out of it. And if I can anticipate where he's going to attempt to break free, I might be able to turn the screws even further. So yeah, I think he's playing for f3 with this move. I think that's purely the idea behind knight h2. I can't really stop f3. So I might just have to let him play it. So let's say I play a3 and then f3, queen g6, king f2, still rook b8 threatens rook b2. Yeah, that's bad news for him because he still can't go rook b1. Okay. So we're going to let him play f3 if that's what he wants. F3 I could also give a check on h4. Might not even be worth it though. F3, queen h4 check, maybe. If g3 I have queen takes h3. So f3, queen h4 check, bishop f2. And then I forced him to occupy that square with his bishop rather than his king. So there could be merit to that. And he plays knight g4. So maybe he's preparing some counterattack like against my king. I think something like bishop h6. Well, he's pinned. He can't really do that. Knight f6. Something along those lines. But I fear for him it's just going to be too little too late. Okay, onward with the plan. And now f3, queen g6, king f2 is going to be one tempo too late because I get in with rook b2. Pinning his queen to his king. And that's just over. Yeah, I think f3 was virtually forced on the previous move. Only chance. Try to go king f2 and hope for the best, but now rook b2 is going to be too strong. That move is coming so fast and there's nothing white can do about it. If we go back for a second, I hate to go back while the game's still in progress, but he's taking a little while here. I really think that queen e2 move. Bishop takes c6 itself might be okay. I wouldn't play that move myself, but queen e2 is the real problem. I think white has to castle right there. And I was mentioning that I'd probably play bishop g4 in reply, but it's imperative to get the king castled because after queen e2, the game continuation, knight takes c3, b takes c3, a5, he just doesn't have that luxury of castling anymore, unless he's willing to lose the exchange. So we retreat the attacked queen. And rook b2 is on tap. So it appears on rook b2 he's going to play queen d1. Not fun for white to have to put the queen back on its original square. And I even have rook e2 check there. So let's go ahead and continue. I almost don't want to play rook e2 because I have such a dominating position right now. I don't even feel that's necessary. Maybe h5. Kick the knight away first. And I can always play rook e2 after that. Yeah, let's play h5. It's kind of sadistic not to play rook e2, but he's just so tied down. I mean, I feel like I'm selling out too cheap if I play rook e2 straight away. So I'm thinking if the knight retreats, then I can even bring the queen into g3. Or maybe bring the other rook over to b8. How about that? Like, say, knight f2, rook fb8. That could be good. Because if knight f2, queen g3, he does have rook c2. So I should probably try to prevent that. Could also just take the pawn on a2. And then go rook over here. I don't know. I might just play rook e2 now. Because I think rook e2, queen takes, bishop takes, king takes, rook b8 is just decisive. He has knight d3 then. There's some hope. So if I played rook fb8 right now, what can I realistically do? Queen a4 maybe? Trying to give the king access to d1. Okay, there's some last-ditch attempts like that, yeah. That should lose, though. Like, say, rook fb8, queen a4, rook e2 check, king d1. I can play rook takes f2. Bishop takes f2, queen d3 check, with mate to come on e2 next move. Yeah, so that's going to lose for him. Okay, let's just do this. Bring the other rook over. Bishop d2 could be tried, looking to block the rook on the second rank. But it's so horribly passive, I really didn't take it too seriously. I can play something like queen g3, and then white can really barely move. Also, rook takes a2, I'm sure, is just good. He's getting very low on time. Bishop d2 might represent the best shot. Queen g3 is a good reply, though. Okay, g4, so he kind of lashes out. No threat with this move. He can't take here because the rook would be hanging. So maybe scoop this pawn. Rook takes a2. Get ready to double. Yeah, let's do that. So just grab this, prepare rook b to b2, and then rook e2. And now bishop d2 can just be met by the doubling of the rooks as well. f4. So advancing further, f5 is a threat, trying to shut out my queen. But rook b2, f5, rook e2 check. That will win the bishop. Because I win the bishop, that means I'll get access to the g5 square, and I'll just be winning. So yeah, we can safely continue with this move, I think. Since we now have this check.
Check.
And even though our queen is temporarily trapped, it's not going to matter. Oh.
Check.
They have king d1, don't they? Uh-huh. All right, I played that a little too fast. This is actually kind of funny. Now my queen is trapped. Never relax, guys. Never relax in chess. Yeah, I'm just going to take here. I mean, fortunately for me, my position's still really good, I believe, but it could have been much better a second ago. I have this passed a pawn. I thought f4, f5 was just like total desperation, but yeah, I overlooked that this was possible. So I should have taken move 26, f4 a little more seriously. Rook e1. I think I can play rook f3 here. Rook f3, e6, king f8. And I stop the pawn in time. Yeah, let's do that. I was also thinking about trading rooks and then playing a2. But I didn't like king d2. And then he can play rook a1 and try to stop the pawn. So this looks like it'll force his knight to a bad square, or he'll have to play rook c2, which also doesn't look great. Rook c2, I can play bishop c4, and a2 will be a threat, also bishop b3. He has no time left. Okay, rook c2, so let's continue as planned. King over. Bishop b3 maybe, followed by bishop takes c3 or rook takes c3 check. Looks good. Yeah, rook e2, bishop takes c3. Okay, he's going to push the pawn. Now we'll hop over with our king just to stop it.
Check.
Get right in front of the pawn. Yeah, knight d1 is a last-ditch attempt. So I can play a2 right here, because after king b2, I can take the rook. So let's do that. All right, and he loses on time. Okay, so this was a well-played game, except for the fact that I completely let my guard down at the end. Prime example of why you can never relax in chess right here. I mean, it's possible this is still good for black, but f4 was a little craftier than I thought. Yeah, I missed that after he loses the queen on e2, that the d1 square is actually freed up for his king. I thought he had to go to f1, and I was like, okay, I'll just play rook takes e3 check and win the game. But yeah, king d1 was a surprising answer. Let me just see what the engine has to say here. If he had more time, this would have been interesting. Oh, I could have played queen h7. Ah. Sorry, guys. It's been a long day. Oh, gosh. Yeah, queen h7 was possible. Just retreat the attacked queen. My queen wasn't even lost. I should have known better. This is like the 8th or 9th video I've recorded today, as I'm recording a bunch of stuff in advance of my London trip. And yeah, apparently I'm foggy enough where I didn't even notice that queen h7 was possible. Okay, but let's go back and take a look at this. So we had a Scotch game. And white played c3. I just played knight f6, e5, and I played d5. Yeah, so a lot of times white will play, after bishop c5, just castles instead of c3. And then knight f6, e5, d5 is also a line. A dangerous one. Black has to know what they're doing here. It's a little unusual to play d4 and then, after e takes d4, then play c3. I guess some Giuoco Piano players like to do this. But there is this line that white played, e5, d5, and bishop b5. I think e takes f6, d takes c4 does work out pretty well for black most of the time. Even though white gets to take here and force rook g8, black has the bishop pair plus 2 extra pawns in the center of the board. So I think this is acceptable for black. So he played bishop b5, knight e4, and then here. And I just dropped the bishop back to b6, knight c3, and then castled. So the knight on e4 is a pest for white. Like if ever they take, then d4 would be hanging after this knight moves. So here's where I suggested that they probably should just castle. Yeah, just get their king to safety. And then I was probably going to continue with bishop g4 and pin them and try to threaten d4. Take. Maybe something like bishop e3 now. Still a good position for black, according to the engine. Yeah, f6 is timely. Trying to open up the f file and attack the knight on f3. So he took on c6 and then played queen e2, which looks like a mistake to me. Yeah, here's probably the last chance to cleanly castle if white wants to do that. Interestingly, the engine doesn't say what I did, which is take on c3 and then play a5. It says play bishop g4 straight away. So maybe just playing to win this pawn. Well, in that case, I'll be curious to see what it thinks about this. Likes black a little bit, not as much as I thought it would. So it says queen c2. Is the idea of that if bishop a6 to play knight g5 and come at h7? Yeah, it looks like it is. g6, h4, and launch an attack, and just keep the king in the middle. Certainly double-edged. It's kind of a hard idea to spot, too. On queen c2, I pretty much have to play bishop a6 if I want to keep white's king in the center, because they are getting ready to castle now. So, bishop g5, and then queen d7. Yeah, queen c2 does look a lot more promising, though. So it makes sense. Here, queen d7, bishop back to e3. Now I got this in, followed by queen do g4. And I think my advantage just kind of grew naturally here. And this looks like a good plan of playing bishop a5, a3, rook b8, and trying to invade on b2. Queen e4. And if ever white were to castle, I was thinking about this move. But all things considered, probably white should do this. That's the only way the rooks are going to get connected, and for better or for worse, I think they had to try it. Knight g5, queen g6, queen c2, bishop c4. And still a black advantage. Even in the event of a queen trade, this looks very nice for me. I'm attacking the a2 pawn, and I have just easy ways to pressure white, like bishop a5, and attack this pawn here. So instead, rook d1. Nice play bishop a5. Yep, engine likes that. Knight h2. Yeah, and here I think I mentioned I thought this was the last moment where white could try f3 to get their king out of the center. f3, queen g6, and king f2. And even though this still looks pretty strong, maybe this is white's best hope. Queen c1, rook b2 check, rook d2, probably bring the other rook over. Yeah, the problem is this is very easy for black to play. So as played, he played knight g4, and I just brought the rook over. Brought it down to attack b2. Played h5. Maybe h5 is even unnecessary, but it looked good. Just force the knight back. Double up the rooks. Yeah, so I don't have to cash in with rook e2 right away. I'm holding off on that threat and keeping the tension. Yeah, once again, holding off for another move. Okay, and here I'm -10, and as you saw, I had a completely terrible piece of calculation. Where, first of all, I missed that king d1 is even possible, and then I missed that I could actually play queen h7 and just save my queen, which is -10 or 11, easily winning for black. Instead, I did this, which still looks good. Okay, I'm still -4 right here, but I would have preferred to be -10 or 11 with an extra queen. Yeah, here I played rook over. Yeah, it's kind of good that this happened, because this just shows you, like, you can never relax in chess. As soon as I relaxed in this game, like, something bad happened in, like, a totally improbable position. And I'm an IM, you know? Like, of course, this should not happen to me, but it's inevitable as a chess player that this sort of thing will occur in your games. And you just have to be as vigilant as you can, constantly scanning the board, looking for threats, looking for ways that your opponent can make your life miserable. Until the clocks have been stopped, until your opponent resigns, or you resign, or it's a draw. Up until that moment, you gotta just stay alert constantly, almost bordering on paranoia, if you want to be real precise about it. So, yeah. I don't know, maybe it was tiredness or just being flustered by the fact that I missed king d1, but I straight up missed queen h7, which is pretty crazy. So this appears to be winning still. Here I could have played rook takes c3. I instead played this move. I like this because it attacks the knight, and the knight doesn't have any squares. And always on e6, I could just slide my king over in front of the pawn. So rook c2. I played bishop c4. Yeah, fortunately for me, that oversight didn't cost me the game, and I was still winning. Yeah, the eval is never going in white's favor or anything. Okay, so I think a good example of finding a nice plan. This plan ignited with a5 and bishop a6. And we caught our opponent's king in the center and started increasing the pressure, but just got a little too overconfident and let our guard down at the end. And that's always when mistakes will creep in chess. So, hope you guys enjoyed this game, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another one. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.